Hi everyone, this is MSY's Research Notes. Yesterday we have started to talk about a new research, which is enhancing physics learning with cognitively activating instruction, a quasi-experimental classroom intervention study. And like what I've said yesterday, today's evening I have something important. So I have to make this video in the afternoon. So I'm here in the dormitory, standing in the corridor to record this video. And tomorrow evening I will go home because tomorrow will be the Qingming Festival, or one of the or the first day of that long holiday. So I will go home, and tomorrow night I will make the video at home, which is more convenient. So you can hear probably some noise here because I'm standing in the corridor in the dormitory. I have tried to find a quiet place to make this video, including the garden, including some places in the teaching building. However, it's afternoon and there are many students in the teaching building, so it's very hard to find a quiet place and to record. So please just let me finish this part. And if you cannot hear it very clearly, I will try to, speak as loud as I can and speak directly to the microphone to reduce some noises. And yesterday, um, we have talked about the let me see. So yesterday, well, someone is disturbing me. But yesterday, let me see, we have talked about the methodology part. Especially the first part of the methodology is about the experimental design. And the second part is about the teachers. So here, the authors, they introduced the demographic variables of teachers. And I think this is not very important here. So I shall just omit those details. And then they further said something about the student sample. And paragraph 1 included some details about how many students are excluded because of no parental written consent. Well, in my own research, I think this is also a very necessary one because my research samples are basically students or junior high school students, and they, in order to make sure the ethnicity of my research, I have to make sure that both the school and their parents, agree that students can participate, and also students themselves must agree with this kind of experiment, because their data will be published online. Although we will try to ensure the anonymity, I mean, this is a kind of necessary process to protect students' anonymity and also to get the consent from their parents and the school. So this is like the paragraph 1, how many students are excluded, and also the reasons why they are excluded. And the second part or second sentence in paragraph 1 is the final sample consists of. So here, after after cleaning the data, we reached a kind of final sample, and it consists of like a certain number, and then the authors, they further said 87 of them received COG-ACT instruction, which is the kind of experimental group, and 85 of them received regular instruction, which is the comparison group. So the authors, they further reported mean age and standard deviation of age. So this part is probably also necessary because I'm not quite sure whether in my own study, which is about the foreign language enjoyment, should also include like the standard deviation or mean value of the age. And also, I'm not very sure whether the distribution of gender should also be included. So this is the thing that I need to check out from other essays, also which are also in the field of second language acquisition, or more specifically, foreign language enjoyment. And this is basically paragraph 1, introduced how many students are excluded and the final student sample, and how many of them received a certain kind of instruction. And paragraph 2 includes the basic information about Swedes gymnasium students, especially the courses they take. Well, I think this part is necessary because the gymnasium, this kind of word, naturally, as a Chinese student, I don't know the meaning of this word. I mean, in this context, because in my previous knowledge, I mean, gymnasium is just like a kind of sport. So that's probably one reason why the authors, they introduced gymnasium, particularly here. Well, because gymnasium here is a kind of course, or it is a kind of school, or a higher standard school. So you can see that not everyone is familiar with this kind of structure or the design of the school. So the authors, they illustrated and told us some details about the gymnasium. And the core conclusion or the core purpose is to tell the readers that even though students, they choose different courses, before these experiments, they had already learned something in common, and they had a kind of same or identical basic line to receive their to receive this kind of instruction. So this is like a necessary part to explain the context of the experiment. However, I think in Chinese context, I don't need to explain, our school in such detail, because firstly, it's much more well known, and secondly, I think I don't need to explain so much like the authors, they did here. I just need to say why I choose this rural kind of context, and whether this context can be representative and can have some typical features of other rural schools. So this is like the only thing that I need to illustrate to show that this choice or choosing this school is legitimate, and it can represent a large number of other schools in rural China. So this is one of the major purposes of my context part about the experimental context. So this is the student sample, basically 2 paragraphs. One is about the demographic information, and the other is some basic information about the context, namely gymnasium. And the third part is measures. And measures are divided into several parts. And first is about the demographic variables. So let me see. So the demographic variables, it is only one single sentence. Well, actually, I don't think this should be put here, because it's not very appropriate to use a single sentence to serve as a kind of paragraph, or as a kind of chapter, or as kind of section. Because I think this kind of demographic variables or measures of the demographic variables should be put at the or in the middle or at the top of the participants. So I think basically the authors, they just told us that the student's age, gender, and focus at school on non-STEM subject, which is a kind of detail that has been introduced in the gymnasium. And I didn't mention this part because I think it's not very important. You just know this is a kind of a demographic variables that the authors they included. So they said those questions are placed at the very beginning or before the experiment. So it's only a simple sentence. So that's why I think it should be put at the beginning or in the middle of the student sample part. And the next part is about procedure. So the authors introduced every move following the timeline. However, this part is put before the intervention. Well, actually, as I have mentioned, why I choose this article is because my own research is quite similar to this one. It's also about proposing a new way of teaching and check the effectiveness of the overall teaching behavior. And in my own research, I also checked the effectiveness of each single one. So in my own opinion, I think procedure should be put only before the data analysis part, which is generally the last part of the methodology part. So procedure should be only before data analysis part, because in the procedure part, you need to generally include everything about the experiments. Just imagine a reader who has never read about your article, and the first part he or she would encounter is procedure. Then after reading this part, he or she could have a basic understanding of your overall experiment. So this is like a concluding part or an overview of your essay. If you put it at the middle or in the middle part, or if you put this at some early stage in your methodology, then probably the readers, they will see that you mentioned some kind of intervention here in the procedure. You said that the experimental group, they received a kind of intervention. However, you haven't gave a concise or explicit definition about this kind of intervention, though. Then how are they supposed to understand this intervention thoroughly? So it's nearly impossible for them to understand the procedure. And just like the authors, they said at the very beginning of the procedure, they said I cannot remember the let me see. I have the essay here. Let me see. So they said, after the teacher training, which is described later, and 1 week before each of the 8 participants' classes started with Newtonian mechanics. Well, I'm not sure whether I pronounced this word correct, Newtonian. I'm not quite sure, but you probably can understand it's about the Newton's mechanics. So you can see here that which is described later. This sentence shows that they didn't really include those necessary things before this procedure part. So after reading this, the readers, they may have a question, which is, what is the teacher training and why you choose to do this kind of teacher training, and how did you do this, and when did you do this? Or they may just feel very confused because you didn't mention this before this procedure. So I think this is why I put procedure just only before the last part, data analysis, because it serves as a kind of conclusion part. Or you can understand it as a kind of link, just like you put like separate chapters or sections in the literature review, and this procedure part serves as a kind of link to associate different parts together after illustrating each one of them. So you absolutely need to put the conclusion at the very end. well, this is why I think procedure should be put in a proper place. And moreover, you will know that procedure is telling readers how you conducted this kind of experiment. Therefore, after this experiment, the thing that you need to do is absolutely data analysis. So that's why procedure should be put at the only before the data analysis part. So you can see this is a kind of fluent or logically based structure. So, well, this is only my opinion, or as a novice reader, I haven't grasped the author's intention or their idea. Well, I'm just trying to express my own thoughts, and I believe that in the hall of academia, we really value this kind of critical thinking instead of blindly accept what other people say. So after this procedure, it's the cog-act instruction. Well, in this part, the authors they introduced like what the cog-act instruction is, and after this part, it will be the cog-act teacher training, and then the regular instruction. So you can see here that the structure is very, very clear. And I think I'll just leave this part tomorrow because there are more people here, and you'll feel like more noisy. You'll feel noisier. So I think I just stop here today. And I have some important business tonight, and tomorrow I'll go home, and I'll stay at home for about a week. Well, because that is the Qingming festival, or you can understand it as a kind of traditional festival, in which Chinese people generally will sweep the tomb or celebrate the spring, the coming of the spring. So this is one of the traditional Chinese festivals. And this is also a time for family reunion. So that's why I choose to go home. And more importantly, I think staying at home can provide me with an invaluable opportunity to immerse myself into my essay, because I don't need to move my computer every day to the teaching building, and I can choose my daily routine. I can have a rest much earlier because my dorm mates, they generally go to sleep at 1 p.m. or 1 a.m., which is very, very late. Well, in my opinion, we should go to bed. At most 11:30 at night. So this is probably one of the major reasons why I choose to go home, because I can have a good rest, and I can have a decision on my own daily routine. At least I can decide when to get up or when to go to sleep. I'll say that, sometimes I can say that I really envy some, American or British students, undergraduate students. They can choose to stay in a dormitory, or they can choose to move out of the school and to live independently in their own room. In China, we really seldom have our independent rooms. So that is one of the reasons why I choose to pursue my study abroad. And I have to say that one of the the first year, the only two schools that I will apply to are the University of Oxford and the University of Cambridge. And I think, based on my current background or my personal information, I think it's highly possible, but you can never say that you are 100% sure that you can be admitted by those prestigious universities. So that's why I'm still working extremely hard and preparing for my essay. And even during holidays, I have no time to have a rest. And even today, even I have some important business tonight, I still need to finish this video. Firstly, because absolutely I have this kind of academic passion, and secondly, objectively speaking, I have to make sure that in my personal background or in my personal statement, I mean, which is a kind of necessary material necessary material to apply to those universities. So in my personal statement, I want to show that I am well qualified, I'm well prepared. So in order to show my preparedness, I absolutely need to further accumulate my like some theories or academic expertise when I still have time. And I think I will apply to those universities next year, probably at the very beginning of January, or this year at the very end of December. So I could probably, before application, I could probably have like more than 200 days. And during the Qingming Festival, there will be a kind of conference which will tell me whether I can be admitted. That will be the European's largest computer-assisted language learning conference, and I really wanted to be admitted, and I think probably. And I think probably if I could be admitted, I will share my study based on the computer-assisted language learning, and I developed my own software or website. And if I could be admitted, I would absolutely share with all of you and invite probably any one of you who may watch this video to join our program. And this is the end. This is the end of today, and this is MSY's Research Notes. And see you tomorrow. Goodbye.